refer to demonic forces. It could just mean bad or injurious to you. It could mean that you're in a bad mood or you have a gloomy outlook on life, and Saul certainly did. You know, in fact, I think this whole thing shows that Saul had this foreboding that horrible things were going to happen to him, and he really did not think he had any control. They were all part of his choices in this world, but he really didn't feel like he had any part in these choices. And this storm is coming at him, and it is on the horizon, and he can't do anything about it. And that's his whole aspect in life. There's actually a little boat in this horrible picture right there. And I'm going, why isn't that little boat sailing that way as fast as he possibly can? But this is Saul's life. There's this huge storm, and he doesn't think he has any control over it. When in fact, he was the one that started the storm. He was the one that the storm is happening because of. But he just feels caught up in all of this. And he knows that things are horrible and are going downhill fast. Now, these attacks from this injurious spirit or this evil spirit are not constant. They come and go. And so they try to find a solution to this, to his problem. It comes because Saul has persistently rejected God, and he has made unrepentant choices. David, on the other hand, consistently obeys God, and when he does sin, he asks God for repentance. Saul is having this happen because of what he has done. It's not because of God hates him, but it's because he has hated God and not followed after God. Now, Saul's aides believe that music is the answer to Saul's problem. And so they try to find someone that can help him. We can assume that some time has passed by because when we first met David, we didn't know much about him. He was just a shepherd in this field, and we didn't even realize that Jesse had 8 sons. After all, 7 were brought to him, and the 8th was just left out there in the field as an afterthought. But now David has become well known. He is the son of Jesse of Bethlehem. He is a harpist of some skill. He's a brave warrior, according to this text. He is eloquent. He speaks well. You know, he's out there composing poems. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. We know those poems. He's a good-looking young man, but most of all for our text here, it says that the Lord is with him. That's the key. We find out that the Lord has left Saul, but the Lord is with David. And that makes all the difference. All the difference. God is with David and is departed from Saul. So we see now David entering into Saul's service. Saul and David meet for the first time, and they will have a very interesting history together, as we will see. The rest of 1 Samuel narrates Saul's fall and David's rise. Saul is going downhill, David is going uphill, and there's a roller coaster ride in between, but basically Saul is on his way out and David is on his way in. Because David has the Spirit of God and Saul has refused to accept what the Spirit is doing in his life. 3 themes we can pick up from this particular chapter. 1 is that Saul is in decline. 2 is that David is prospered by God because the Lord is with him. And Saul is deeply attached to David. Several times in this chapter, it tells us that Saul really liked this young man. He liked his playing. He liked the fact that he could carry his armor. Everybody needs somebody to carry around their tools. He liked him, and he was very attached to him. We can see that there are political forces at work, but really the author is not worried about these political forces that are forcing Saul out. He had alienated himself from his army. He had tried to, he was the first king, and every first person in a situation has always got some trouble. But really what we need to focus on is those theological truths that the author is giving to us. He doesn't care about the economic pressures. He doesn't care about the military pressures. He doesn't care about the state, the interstate rivalries that are going on between the Philistines and the Amalekites and all of those kinds of things that are happening, or all the movements of people that are going on in the world. He cares about the fact that Saul has rejected God and God has rejected him, And David accepts what God is doing in his life, and God has accepted David. That's really where he wants to focus. We need to look some more, I think, though, in how to apply this and focusing on this evil spirit. Because this just seems wrong when we say that this evil spirit is from the Lord. In their mind, in Old Testament mind, especially in the early part of the Old Testament, they had a very firm grasp on cause and effect in this world. They knew that if something good happened, it was from God. If something bad happened, it was from God. They didn't have any intermediary causes. They just thought everything good was from God, everything bad was from God. God was in charge. And frankly, this is one of the first things that we need to learn about God in this world, is that He has got the whole world under control. And God was trying to teach them that He has everything under His sovereignty as king. They preferred to skip all the intermediary causes. You know, they didn't talk about, well, God allowed Satan to do this, or there was a demonic force there, or there was an illness, or there was, something else that happened. They went straight to God. And frankly, that's where we need to start as well. Now, there's more to the story. But we need to realize that God is in control of this universe. God was at work in David's life. He was moving him into the palace. He was moving him into a place of leadership. We need to realize that God is at work now. We may not see Him. In this story today, we don't see God's name mentioned very often. All we see is a crazy old king and a young buck coming up, moving into the palace. But we don't see God working. But we know that He's there, and we know that He's in charge. We don't see all the other forces that happened, but we know that God is in charge. This spirit, whether it's demonic or psychotic, is ultimately from God, because God is ultimately in charge of everything that happens to us in this world. The Old Testament authors didn't hesitate to name God as the origin of trouble, or calamity, or disease, or problems, or disasters, because they knew that God was absolutely in control of everything that happened. They knew this, and they blamed God, or they praised God, but they had to deal with God. The Bible doesn't really attempt to answer the questions, why does evil exist? Or where does evil come from? What it really does is it points out that sin comes from within us, and that sin is the problem. When we look at Saul, it says Saul rejected God. He was given 3 chances to serve the Lord. He was given every benefit. He was given the